Sir, his audience is there.
Yes, please start it.
Okay, sir. Hey everyone, hope all of you are doing well. And right now I will share my screen.
ब्रदर इस साइड मत आना, मैं यहाँ पे एक प्रोग्राम चल रहा है.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, sir. I welcome all of you on this webinar of Startups and Innovations for EV Ecosystem, an initiative by Mobility Alliance and Social Sustainability Foundation, whose motto is driving with agility towards sustainable mobility. And the platform is provided by the machine maker. I am your host for today's session. My name is Dhanuka Mohan and I am technical member of MAS Foundation. To brief about MAS Foundation, our mission is to enable sustainable mobility ecosystem, and our vision is to become the country's largest platform to enable green mobility. And by keeping in mind our vision and our mission, the MAS Foundation has conducted 10 plus events and interactive sessions such as EV charging infrastructure challenges, EV startup funding challenges, and e-mobility sector and battery technologies, and so many more. Also, MAS Foundation trained 13 plus mechanics to adapt the latest EV technology in our automotive industry. Let me introduce you our moderator, Mr. Harishankar, who is managing editor at Machine Maker, and he is media entrepreneur working with manufacturing sector for the last 25 years. He has complete market knowledge of Indian manufacturing, demographic, and industry specific. And now let me introduce you to our speakers. Our first speaker is Rajiv Arora, who is founder and managing director at LTS EV Technology Private Limited and also organizer at EV Expo. He is currently associated with 4 companies such as LTS Auto Solutions, LTS EV Technology Private Limited, Kardam Properties, Raman EV, and also in past he was associated with 5 other companies. Now let me tell you about LTS EV Technical Private Limited. The company provides e-rickshaws, e-loaders, and electrical bicycles, and also electrical motorcycles. I welcome Rajiv Arora, sir. And now let me introduce you to our second speaker, who is Nyan Kumar Swamy, who is co-founder and CEO at Advanced Rotating Machinery and Intelligent Systems R&D Private Limited, and also senior mobility consultant at 3S EV. He was senior product manager at Bosch Engineering and Business Solutions, also assistant manager at Volvo, senior software engineer at GE Transportation. So let me tell you about ARMIS India, the company which provides high efficiency motors, high efficiency electrical chargers, and also power supplies and wireless charging, converters and inverters, and so many things. I welcome Gnan Kumar sir. And also our third speaker is Rohit Grover. He is co-founder and CEO at Astrovilos, and also he was project officer at Aerospace Department IIT Madras, and also teaching assistant and research assistant at IIT Madras. Let me tell you about Astrovilos. So everyone knows that our gas turbine was used in our jet engines traditionally, but they are developing micro gas turbines to generate use it as generator to electrify the high duty trucks. which is just so incredible. And after summarizing all of our incredible speakers, I would love to hand over this session to Mr. Hari Shankar, and I would suggest all the audience to put their queries and doubts in the chat box during the session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, Denuka Mahant, for this wonderful introduction. As we learned from Denuka, Mars Foundation for last 1.5 years is doing a lot of activities enabling and supporting the mobility, green mobility in the country. And I should congratulate you, all of you, for doing this excellent work. Today, we are here in this webinar to explore and to understand how the startups in the EV ecosystem is supporting the total electric vehicle community in the country. And no one else can, talk about our startups rather than our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Before a week, he announced 16 January as the National Startup Day. And he also told that startups is going to be the future of India. As a matter of fact, in India, when the EV revolution started, even before last 1 decade, it is the startups which have taken this step, small steps. Maybe, they were importing from other places because we had a lot of challenges. But it is those startups in a very small way have taken the EV revolution. Today, it have gone to a very next level. And couple of speakers who are having today in our panel, that is Rajiv, Gnana. These are the early starters, in the EV ecosystem in the country that we are talking about 5-6 years before, or even much before that. They were in the ecosystem. They were supporting the ecosystem. Even before we all were coming serious about EV, they were already there. Rohit, another young entrepreneur who are there with us, who are from IIT Madras, is also came out with an innovation which is going to completely change the EV ecosystem. And we should congratulate him. Recently, he got the funding also from Tube Investments of India. Now, starting this program, and first of all, thanks Mars Foundation for giving me this opportunity to moderate this session right now. Friends, I do have a small challenge today that I am facing some internet issues. If in between I am not able to get available, my colleagues Denuga as well as Kushagra will be taking over. And to start today's webinar, I would like to first go with Mr. Rajiv Arora, who is the founder of Altius EV. More importantly, the EV Expo. One of the first organizer in the country to take EV and EV manufacturers, the total people in the EV ecosystem, in a completely different level. I would like to know from him his startup story, as well as how he feels startup is contributing to the Indian EV ecosystem. Over to you, Mr. Arora.
Thank you, Hariji. First of all, I'll just take 1 minute to update everyone how EV became a success story, what it is today. Like you said, it started around 10 years back. EV actually started in 2006-7 when few companies like Yo Bike, A1 or Hero Electric started importing electric scooters from China. But for next 5-6 years, till 2012, there was no service support. They only used to import complete unit, sell it. If something you need spares, some repair, some damage to the plastic components because of accident, then they never used to provide you. Then 2012, some people started importing e-rickshaw from China. Complete unit, in CKD, even nut, bolt, everything used to come from there. People used to assemble and sell. So that went on for 2.5 years till 2014, when some accident happened in Delhi and High Court was of the view that the e-rickshaws should be stopped. But Minister Nitin Gadkari ji was in favor of it. So government again went to the court and said that, okay, we'll bring in a standard so that there's a standardized vehicle on the road. That is where the success of EV story began in India, because rickshaw made EV like a USB. So you might be having a USB of any company, you can put it in any laptop wherever USB port is available. So that is how things started improving. E-rickshaw was best thing that could happen to last mile connectivity. Then standard came in 2014, October 10th, October, the standard was formulated by Indian government, and then all the approved rickshaws started coming in. And now it's like 7 years down the line, almost all rickshaws are approved, all two-wheelers are, a lot of two-wheelers are coming in. FAME 2 subsidy, it's a big push by government for from two-wheeler up to bus, they are giving you subsidy. So that is how this thing started. As Altius EV Tech is concerned, we started in 2013. We also started with importing from China, because at that time only it was coming from China. But after importing one or two consignment, we thought that, yeah, there is no rocket science in it. So why can't we manufacture it here? So we started manufacturing at least all metal parts, all tires, and all rims were easily available. Slowly and slowly, motors and controllers were only left, and accelerators also. But gradually down the line, say in 2018, 17, people started assembling or manufacturing those components also. So after that, we can say it's 100% Indian product. So that is how the story of rickshaw goes. Same is now happening with the electric scooters or two-wheelers. All are being imported from China. Now, because of FAME subsidy, a lot of people are busy in Indianizing it, because now it's a compulsory. Government is doing a tier 3 scan, that if you're buying motor from, say, an Indian company, from where he is buying the stator, rotor, rim, or whatever he needs for the motor. So government is asking that also from last week. So we hope that all products soon will be Indian, and even two-wheelers will be 100% Indian like e-rickshaw. Similarly, for L5, which is auto category, what we call generally auto like Bajaj or Piaggio, same thing is happening, and lot many companies are coming in that domain. Buses, because government buys it, so government has bit control over it, and there are few big companies like BYD, Tata, and Ashok Leyland, PMI, they are doing it. But you'll find other players also soon entering into the bus domain. So this is how the EV stories goes. And initially, when we started, we used to go. Suppose for light, we used to go to Lubex. They used to say that we cannot give you, because you only need 100 lights per month or per consignment. So that is a role where startups started helping us. So few we you won't believe, in 2013 we went to MRF, we went to CET, we went to many companies like tire companies. They said we cannot give you. You are not an OEM, because they never thought EV will be OEM. EV manufacturer is also an OEM. So a lot of local companies like Speed, Vail, Jalandhar, and others also, they started making tires for e-rickshaws, for e-two-wheelers, and slowly, gradually. Now, you won't believe, every week I have some of the other company visiting me, like MRF, Seat, sir, please buy tire from us, TVS. So that is how startups started helping us, by making the components which were not there, or which were monopoly of big companies like Lubex. So like Lubex, there's a company in Kirti Nagar in Delhi, Rajulux. He started making rickshaw lights, lights for two-wheeler. And he's such a person, he'll give you 10 also. If you want 10 pieces, he'll give you. Even 5 also, I think he'll give 5 also. He'll never refuse you. So that is how startups started helping the industry, and it has reached where it is today because of startups. Otherwise, we would have still been importing silly things like lights or some small metal parts from China only. Because I have to make a vehicle, I cannot stop, because if somebody is not supplying me. So either I'll find a source in China, or somebody will import and have his margin and give it to me, supply to me. So that is how the startup came in case of components initially. Now startups are like Rohit ji, you said. Now startups are coming in technology also. Like you must be knowing Ather. I was discussing with Mr. Swami that they are the one those who have started using mid motor, taking an initiative. Otherwise, a company like me, we did a study on mid drive motor, and we thought that we should go with something which is safe. Safe in terms of business, not in terms that whether it is safe to use or not. But for me, something which is stable, I need to use that. I don't want to go into all those hassles doing R&D and all. So Ather did it. So that Ather itself is a startup funded by Hero MotoCorp. So likewise, now lot of technology is coming, and you must have heard Mr. Nitin Gadkari. He's always saying that within few months, startups will make sure that price of IC engine vehicle and electric vehicle will be same, which is a deterrent as of today. If you buy a Nexon, maybe diesel, petrol Nexon, it is like 7, 8. Electric is it's almost 8, 9, and electric is almost 15. So that disparity is there, which is one of the inhibited factors when somebody is buying a car. Because in India, cars are bought within a specific budget, not the specifications, not the usage. People buy it according to the budget. So Gadkari ji, for last, if you have heard his any of these speeches, for last 2 months, he's saying that I am sure that startup, whatever work they are doing, they'll surely bring the price of IC engine and EV same. So I also hope same, and I pray that this happens as soon as possible. Even we, Altius EV Tech is also a startup, and we are bringing electric bike which we are selling to a customer for 80,000 after subsidy, post subsidy. So if you go to buy any bike which is a lower cost one like Splendor or something, they all are 80K only. So we thinking that same logic, we have launched it at 80K, rather less than 80K. Our target is to give it to end customer at 75K inclusive everything. So that is the same thought which we have been following, and Gadkari ji is also saying so. So we hope that things will change into our favor soon. Thanks.
And this is very wonderful to hear. See, actually, we have a person like you, Rajiv sir, who were, you were in the EV segment from the day one. So you know that those challenges. At one point of time, EV in India was, now also if you go to Calcutta, interior part of Calcutta or Delhi, you can find the Totos, that e-rickshaws, which is running now also, which is 10 years old. So we are in 2022 now, 2010, 2012 e-rickshaws are still running. So that was an era when people have initiated and using. So those places where more people were looking at them as a people who are importing and just selling it, traders.
Traders, yes.
But the contribution even those companies made was very huge, for which we are coming in a very big, we are in a place today. And the government's push towards green mobility is also a very big fame to all these made a big impact. I will come back to you, but what you spoke right now is something very interesting. And we will also come with the price of the EV versus the IC engine, at least in the two-wheeler segment. You told that we are somewhere at par. People who would like to take a Splendor EV, they can come Splendor, they can look at an EV with almost the same cost. You are going to bring down the cost numbers. I'm sure it is going to happen. I would love to go to our next panelist, Nana Kumara Somi, who worked with many startups. He's not part of one startup, he's part of many startups. He's also leading a Japan company in India, Armis, with their motor technology for the EV. He is also one of the person from the very beginning promoting electric vehicle ecosystem in the country. So Nana, you have seen a lot in the EV sector, and you have seen that EV sector grow in India. So what is the role these startups played here, and how you feel that your startup, which you are 3S EV, as well as Armis is doing right now, and how it is empowering the Indian EV segment?
Yeah, to answer this, I am just sharing my screen. Just to give you, it will be an interesting perspective that we had created. Sorry, it is in Japanese, but the entire picture is in English. So earlier, if you see, the trigger of innovations used to mainly happen in Japan for two-wheeler. If you have seen companies like Kawasaki, Honda, Yamaha, Ducati, these are the companies, the trigger of innovations, be it electronic fuel carburetors or anything with respect to two-wheeler innovations were happening in Japan. But now that these companies had some collaboration earlier with Hero, with Honda, they bought in some technology. Similarly, TVS has some partnerships. So with all in all, if you see, these are the four major players in India: Hero, Honda, Bajaj, and TVS. And you'll see small players trying to do in the IC engine space. But if you see the same thing in China, now penetration in China, if you see the gray one, this is where electric vehicle startups are playing a major role in China. The others are having smaller share compared to the electric startups in China. And this is also bound to happen in India, where EV startups will play a major role for innovations, be it companies like Log9 Material, which is trying to do different battery technologies, or companies like what do you call this Omega Seiki, they are trying to do their own innovations. Also Mr. Rajiv Arora's company, they are trying to do their own kind of small innovations. These small innovations will enable triggering local manufacturing. The moment you trigger local manufacturing, you are also enabling the cost reduction. Today, most of the motors, as an example, are both motor and controller is imported from China. It's just not the import, you also have the import duty. All these things will add up to the overall cost. And as Rajiv was also telling example of Nitin Gadkari, for sure, we will have the cost of IC engine equivalent to the electric vehicle. And I'm sure every startup in this space is working. Like Simple Energy, they have built all the components and they will be launching soon. All these components are locally manufactured in India. So this is how innovations would trigger, and I'm sure, I'm very confident that startup will play a very important role for innovations in India.
Nana, 2 words about 3S EV as well as
definitely. See, okay, why 3S EV? Also, why I'm doing this innovations from Japan, but also working with 3S EV. 3S EV is Samshule and Somappa Electric. What we realized is connectors, especially the connectors that are used in 2-wheeler and also used in 3-wheeler and 4-wheeler. Mostly all these connectors are standard connectors. Europe has the Type 2 and CCS2 as a standard connector, whereas the US has a Type 2 as the standard connector, and Japan had CHEDEMO as the standard connector, and Chinese have the GB/T as the standard connector. These standard connectors, 99% of the companies manufacturing these standard connectors are in China. So we realized that there is an opportunity to localize this connector for 2-wheeler. So for 2-wheeler and 3-wheeler and 4-wheeler, including the buses. So at Stamshule, we are trying to localize these connectors to bring it to Indian market, which could be used for your charging. Similarly, we are also exploring other areas where we could do as much as localization through Stamshule, where I am a mobility consultant.
This is really a great opportunity for many Indian manufacturers.
Yes,
I know
yes.
that Stamshule and Somappa is not from the EV sector. They are for last 5 decades. They are working in basically the springs, which is used in the automotive. They manufacture that. They're very one of the oldest company in India. For them, they are entering into the EV is something very encouraging. So we will come back to you, Nana.
No, there we have definitely, we see that it's not just Stamshule and Somappa. Since I do consulting in this space, I see many other mechanical who are doing, example, I am manufacturing a piston rod. And I see my piston rod will not be useful in an EV. So the people who are making piston rods are moving into electric vehicle component manufacturing. Because they're realizing the potential of EV. Even if you penetrate 30%, which we are targeting, that's a huge number. That's definitely a huge number. For 30 million, 30% is 10 to 12 million, which is a huge number to, and the market is pretty good to, work on this topic.
Good. We will again come back to you on this. Very interesting subjects you just touched upon, Nana. I would like to go to our third panelist of the day, Rohit Grover, who is a technologist. And that's what we were first talking about the market from Rajiv, and we took that into techno commercial about from Nana, and now we are having a complete one technological startup. And we should congratulate Rohit that recently another Indian manufacturer, one of the top manufacturer in the country, have invested in his company Aerostrovilas Energy. So Rohit, can you please tell about your journey, your innovation, and how it is going to change the entire EV ecosystem, not just in India, across the globe? Over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Hari, for this lovely introduction, and I would like to thank the Mars Foundation, for giving us this opportunity to talk about, what we are doing here as a company. So we are building our technology, which is traditionally being used in, let's say, the like aircraft aviation, trying to bring it down to put it in a truck. And more importantly, what we are trying to solve is a biggest problem of pollution today. So today, not many of you would know that trucks form almost 40 to 50% of our pollution on the roads. So it is high time we also start looking about how to make these trucks go clean, or maybe in some sort of a way how to electrify them, because any particular solution with respect to battery or some sort of hybrid solution with respect to fuel cells is going to take a really long time in a country like India or in developed economy like India to reach a decent level of penetration. So we are kind of coming up with a solution that does not depend on for us to build all kinds of infrastructure. Let's say for example, in EVs we have seen there have been challenges to come up with charging infrastructure, and that has been one of the deterrent of keeping the growth to be on the lower side. But in our case, we are able to solve a particular problem by removing the infrastructure issue altogether. You come up with a turbine such that reduces the pollution drastically, and then you can shift from one fuel. Let's say today our turbine can actually operate with diesel fuel, and the government has been talking about coming up with the LNG infrastructure, which is to a certain extent a cleaner fuel, but okay, it still has some carbon emission, and they will perhaps move towards hydrogen or some biofuels. So the solution that we are building is for the Indian trucking industry today, that can easily be taken to other, I would say, global markets. So, if you talk about markets such as India, Middle East or Southeast or Central America, which are developing economies, and even the developed economies will be able to adopt this solution going forward. So this is something that we can work with various OEMs, not just in India, but globally. But I think once we have a good traction that we build with the Indian OEMs, we'll be able to scale up globally. And I think we have a massive support coming from the IIT Madras labs, where we did our initial work, and grant support from one of the oil PSUs. So yeah, I think the journey has been amazing for us over the last 3-4 years, through the product development phase on to now starting a few of our development and trial activity with the trucking OEMs in India. Thanks. Over to you.
Yeah, see, I would like to again start this the question from you, Rohit. See, you being a startup and the technology you are working, do you think that if your startup is not there, this technology itself will be discussed or explored?
Right. I think that's a very good question. So, these turbines, to a certain extent, have been used in vehicles before. I mean, if I go all the way up to say 60s and 70s, we had cars or even trucks built with some sort of turbine, but it had a different kind of powertrain mechanism. But it was tried before; it didn't work out. And more recently, in a similar manner, like in a hybrid form, it has been tried with other companies, but they have a significant challenge of bringing down the cost of the turbine. So what we have actually done is you take an aviation turbine, shrink it down, and do some innovation in its materials to use and manufacturing. That actually comes a lot from our IP. We reduce its cost to about 1/10. Now, by doing this major disruption in cost, we actually make this whole thing viable, which was not until today with any other company in the world.
Thank you, Rohit, for this information. I would like to go back to Mr. Rajiv, and just to ask him, see, as we discussed in the beginning, startups in the EV ecosystem, or the people who worked in the EV ecosystem mainly during early 2010, 2006, it is more like, bringing the three-wheelers and e-rickshaws and selling it here. And from there, what are the biggest change you are seeing right now, the contribution of startups? Because along with RTS, you also run EV Expo, right? You come across many people who are working, startups working in the EV ecosystem today. Where you see the shift of startups working in the EV ecosystem in India?
Like I said, when we, because you mentioned EV Expo, we started doing EV Expo in 2015. At that time, if I would say the component domain or vehicle domain, there were almost 60 to 70% Chinese company, even in India, in our expo. Slowly, gradually, it shifted. Now it is not because of Corona. I am talking prior to Corona. Now they are only 20%. 80% in are Indian companies, those who are manufacturing in India, and almost all are MSMEs and startups for sure. Because initially, when the revolution started, like I told you in 2013-14, when rickshaw started coming in, and up to 2018, none of the big players were keen to accept or ready to accept the thing that things will change to EV. Although Mr. Nitin Gadkari openly on some many times, even in SIAM meeting, he said that either you have to be in line or you will be left out. He told to all IC engine manufacturers, because SIAM meeting, all big Maruti, Suzuki, Honda, all two wheelers, everyone is there. So he said that same thing, but still they were not ready to accept. Even if you see today, if you ask Maruti, if you know someone, what have they done? They are whatever they are doing in EV space, they are just doing it symbolically, just to appease government that okay, we are doing something. We might come up with a Wagon R, so they'll release some one of the picture of Wagon R that it has been tested. We are testing it, but it is just it's a eye wash. Like sometimes your children tell you something false when they are studying, so basically they are doing their damage to themselves only. So that is what all companies, I am not singling out Maruti in this, but you ask any Honda, Maruti, or even Honda motorcycle, or Hero Motocorp. Hero Motocorp just invested in Ather, that's it. Otherwise they still think that we can stop this EV challenge, or EV push. They still think that, and they are still not. So all of those who are in EV are practically set up, except maybe Mahindra or Kinetic, or maybe Exide has recently launched e-rickshaw. So these are the people, those who cannot be counted as startup. Otherwise, companies like Yatri, those who are selling now 4,000 vehicles a month, and companies like Belling Scooters and other two-wheeler manufacturers, those who are selling around 8 to 10,000 scooters every month. Company like Gmo Pi selling 3,000 scooters. So they are doing well, and they all are startups. And gradually, what Mr. Swami showed on that slide, the same thing happened in Norway, same thing happened in China, and will happen in India also. If you study the four-wheeler car market in Norway, like 10 years back, Delmer, Suzuki, and Mercedes, Audi, Volkswagen, they had 96% share. Now, if you see in 2020, they have 3% share. Within 5-6 years, it came down from 96 to 3. Just imagine. Now, Tesla, BYD, they are having a major share in Norway cars. You can see it on Google, it's available there. So likewise, these companies, big companies in India also are not accepting the fact that EV wave will come for sure. Now Tata, if you must have read that day before yesterday, Tata said that we will have a triple EV sale, whatever we had in the last year, this year we'll have triple. So effectively, if you calculate it, it's 300% growth. Do you think any industry has that growth? No. Startups will grow more than 1,000%, I can assure you. Because startups, they first of all, they have a fire in them to do something and to make something. Secondly, all these companies like Honda, I have met many senior people from Honda scooters. They are very much afraid of EV now, because he said that you made a bike which is much better running. I showed him my bike. He drove that bike. He said it is running much better than my bike. And if I have to launch a bike, I have to spend some 50 crores in development. And it's a 2-year plan. At least minimum, he said 2 years. Can be 3-4 years also. He said we develop an engine, we develop each and everything. You have made using a hub motor, which is easily available. only 2 or 3 moving parts in total whole complete vehicle. So he said, I am telling you that whenever we have a meeting with management, we are worried about what will happen to us. So now at one point they are seeing that their future is dim. They'll not be able to sustain much in coming years. Ultimately, uh, you if you see around 10 months back or 8 months back, you just see the data on Google or Vahan. We were selling only 8 to 10,000 two-wheelers a month. Today we are selling 1.5 lakh per month. So this growth, not in year, I'm talking, it is in 3 quarters, from 8K to 1.5 lakhs, 150K. So just imagine if this goes on, even at half the rate. So I think another 3 years we'll be selling almost 10 lakh two-wheelers a month. The industry will be selling. And this all will come from startups, because Hero doesn't have a two-wheeler, Honda doesn't have, TVS doesn't have electric two-wheeler. Even if they plan today, they'll take 3 years to launch it. Startups only do some research, maybe like Rohit said, with some institute, and then they come up with a vehicle, sustainable vehicle. There may be some glitches with them because they cannot spend that much on R&D and all. But yes, ultimately it is one or the other day it will stabilize. Electric two-wheelers were initially, I told you in 2005-6 were a lot of problem spares. Now it is not a problem. Now you can get hub motor, you can get in Karol Bagh. But in Delhi, I don't know about Bangalore, JC Road you get or not. But in Delhi, you can go to a two-wheeler market and you can get hub motor. If your motor goes faulty and suppose your manufacturer is not supporting you. So because there are a lot of startups, those who have started making or assembling motors in India. Now they are assembling here. So they are selling to aftermarket also because they have capacity to sell. So that's way things are improving, and I think another 2 or 3 years it will really change the whole landscape, as what Mr. Swami showed in that slide. So all this is happening because of startup. Because I told you, if you just write down all the big 10, 12 car and scooter companies or bike companies, they don't have a EV model as of date ready with them. Whatever they are doing is just a fast thing, just to show the government that okay, we are working on it. So let's hope that this revolution comes ASAP. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree with your point that it definitely EV is going to stay. You also mentioned earlier how our union government, Nitin Gadkari sir, FAME and all these, the government machinery also giving us a lot of hints, and they come open and talk about, embracing EV, and they also promote electric vehicles in a big way. So things are going to change, and this is also going to support. And just from trading earlier, if people had a misconception that startups are only there in interested to make money by trading, it is not like that. As we have seen, Rohit's company is working very closely in making a complete shift, in bringing a new innovation and new technology. There are many companies in India who are working on the motors now.
Yeah.
And those are wonderful solutions what they are bringing up, which is going to completely change. And also one thing is there, we have seen that automotive OEM is one of the biggest, or the automotive sector as such, the tier 1, tier 2 is one of the biggest employer also in the private sector. But we have seen that it was not easy for anyone to just come and bring out a two-wheeler or four-wheeler. That is where we have seen that when these small startups come with a e-bike or a scooter, people were looking at it, how many days you will go, because this is not the complete an OEM of automotive looks like that. That startups have completely, broke that concept of having a big factory or anything like that. But I know the Grita's Apna Raj, he is having a beautiful place in Gujarat. Even a couple of days before, I was doing a particular story, and I found out there is a beautiful factory in Pune, where they are manufacturing thousands of electric scooters. So the EV, the startups are playing a very big role now. They are not just the small players today, right? Nana, over to you. See, you are a consultant to many EV startups, or even the mechanical companies who would like to make a paradigm shift towards the electric vehicle system. We should not forget actually Reva, even back in 2000, beginning of 2000, when I was in Bangalore, this car, no small Reva car, used to catch my attention. It was very small, very limited. I still remember I used to see that blue color Reva car which was going. My knee was basically into metal handling, and I worked with these guys. So it was always catch my fascination. And one company, one OEM who have seen that potential maybe and acquired was Mahindra. Renamed it to Evo, and they worked, and now they are working, as Rajiv told, that they are very seriously working on the electric vehicle segment. Now, coming to you, Nana, so what you've seen, the startups giving innovations to the ecosystem, Indian EV startups.
Thank you very much. I think that's the point even I wanted to talk about. See, basically, right from usage of plastics, which are used in the EV. If you compare the weight of ether is about 110 kgs. Whereas if you compare the same thing with Activa is about 85 to 95 kgs based on which variant you choose. So definitely EV is bringing additional 15 kg weight into the overall body of vehicle weight. So what this is leading to is innovations in lightweight solutions. Innovations in definitely lightweight. One is the material, the plastics that are used. People are trying to move towards composites, where the weight you can reduce through usage of biocomposites is one area that I see people are experimenting in doing it. That is one area. Second is lightweighting of the motors. Because if you compare an induction motor, you gave an example of Reva. In Reva, the induction motor, which is a 15 kilowatt induction motor, was weighing 23 to 25 kilos. Whereas if you see the same 15 kilowatt motor now being done with an IPMS motor, you are reducing it to almost 10 kgs, 10 to 12 kgs. So you are reducing the weight. Weight is definitely an area where people are trying to focus. Battery is definitely a huge opportunity exists in the battery weight reduction, because the total percentage, if you see per kilowatt, the battery weight is about 10 to 12 kgs. So that 10 to 12 kg per kilowatt, if you're able to reduce the battery weight, we see major innovations are happening there. Then the second thing is, okay, in case of auto, now people are want to use mid-drive motors in auto, or sometimes they're also trying to use a hub motor in case of an auto. But in case when you use hub motor in an auto, what will happen is you need to have two controllers. You need to have two controllers, one to control the left side of the drive and one to control the right side of the drive. If innovations happens where a single controller can drive both the left side of the motor and also the right side of the motor, doing the same controller, instead of having two different controllers, you can bring down to a single controller, then you are bringing innovations there. People are innovating. Example, in auto space, I know people are innovating. One is mainly to bring down the wiring harness, the length of the wiring harness, or to reduce the size of the cables that are used. People are putting charger, DC-DC converter, then the the inverter, all of them together into a single box, which is called an e-box. They call it as an e-box, where everything, the power distribution unit, everything is combined into a single box, so that your power and then you manage your cooling in such a way that it is optimal, which will make your vehicle lightweight. So at the end of the day, what you are trying to bring in is small innovations which are happening in various segments. That's what I see. Innovations will drive in the two-wheeler, three-wheeler, and the four-wheeler segment. Even in innovations like startups are working on this magnet free motor, the one which I think before you came in, we were discussing the SRM motor. That's definitely an important step, because bringing in magnetless motor is a kind of innovation. See, making magnetless SRM motor, the cost is almost 40% less compared to a regular IPMSM motor. One is but the electronics to do it is slightly on a 10% higher, but still you have a 30% saving because you are innovating in the switch reluctance motors, which is magnetless. So companies are investing in this kind of a technology. Indian engineers from Indian Institute of Science and IIT Delhi, IIT Mumbai, IIT Madras, people are working on it, and I'm sure we will bring in those technologies to Indian market, and we will have more innovations for India, and which will go global. I'm sure what Nitin Gadkari also told was that we want Indian companies to sell in global market, and in a way, Ola has trying to do it, but how will they succeed? Only time will tell. But I'm sure they have already started their journey where at least they had some initial hiccups, but that every startup will have the initial hiccups. But at the end of the day, when they try to export the vehicle into global market, I think even there is a Delhi startup which is trying to sell their bike by Gaurav. I don't know exactly the name of the company. They are selling in South Africa. It's a startup.
Kawasaki is selling.
Yeah, they are selling their two-wheeler motorbikes in South Africa, which means already it started where the innovations that are happening in India is already trying to go global. And I'm sure with great products coming around from all the startups, we will see our products in the global market.
Like, I would like to add one thing. Like Mr. Swami said that without magnet, the motor. That innovation is very important because for magnet, we are dependent on China. As that earth magnet is not there in the in Indian anywhere in India, you don't have that ore available. So what China do is, like, a few companies started making motors in India recently. So China increased the price of magnet thrice or four times. So we don't get that benefit if we are making it in India. So once we have that motor, SRM motor without magnet, rest all motor technology is available in India, because we Indians have been making motors for 50 years, maybe motor to pump out water, motor for other applications. Motor is motor actually, technically. So now with SRM motor, if we don't have any dependency on China, so we can control that market in India as well as globally, as what Mr. Swami said. But if we are dependent on China, then the magnet cost at least 30-40% of the whole motor cost. So if you are dependent on that for China always, that is a problem.
Yeah, good. The startups and this technology itself is going to make the shift from that, new studies. That again, I'm telling you, Rohit's example is something what today we can see. He was a aerospace engineer.
So I did aerospace engineering from IT.
Yeah. So he was not getting a job, and that is where he decided that, let me not just look at a job, because if I study aerospace engineering, I'm not going to find a job end of the year, because otherwise I need to go out of the country. You see, so he started exploring, and his professors, I should congratulate them also, giving him all the support from IIT Madras for getting them incubated there. And this is what the story is going to be. Next, now Rohit is sitting here. Last 2-3 years, he's working on the project slowly. Now, industry also coming and supporting him. After 20 years, we can see an industrialist sitting here right now as a startup. That is a change we are going to see. That is what startups are going to build the future of tomorrow. So, Rohit, what is your message to the youngsters of India, the engineers, young engineers who are very talented, but somewhere they don't get a good opportunity here comparing to maybe the IT segment, IT sector, or even the opportunities what are available out of India? So what is your message for those young talented engineers, and how they should come and collaborate with the EV, the opportunities around?
Yeah, I think so I think there are lots of opportunities around today, compared to what it was 7-8 years back. I mean, to give you my example itself, when I started this company, my other co-founder wanted to do the same thing almost 10 years back with the same professor, but things were not so great back then in terms of startup ecosystem and all those things. But yeah, I mean, the opportunities are great. In fact, I know many investors who are now investing in not just tier 1 colleges like IITs, but are also going to tier 2, tier 3 colleges, like even private colleges, so those colleges which are doing well, they are all now coming up with, lots of incubation centers. So you might be aware of this Atal Incubation Center. So, many colleges have set up their own incubation centers where they are, incubating startups. So I was also, at one point had gone to Bangalore to give a small talk in one such college over there, and yeah, it's really exciting the kind of work that gets done there. With, in fact, they don't even have the kind of facilities that we in IITs have, and still there are lots of frugal innovations that do come out with. So I think that the time is just right. So if there is something that as a young engineer or as a young entrepreneur you love, building, so you should go with that. Have that as a passion, and get the best opportunity that you find around and start working on it, because maybe someday you will find support. So for me itself, it took me about 3-4 years. We did get an initial support as a grant from one of the oil POCs. And you mentioned about Ather, Mr. Rajiv and Mr. Swami had mentioned about Ather. I mean, Ather, they are my seniors. And when they had started, there was very limited support. And they were the initial, masters of, building deep tech startups out of, these places. So the ecosystem is getting much better, is what I'm trying to say. And not just the IITs, even other colleges are coming up with lots of innovations. Lots of startups are getting funded over there. So I think for an engineer, I think if there's something that you love doing, you should try to get around finding some help in many of these incubation centers. And there are lots of grants available through the government these days, of the order of a few, tens of 20 lakh. So I think building that EV startup depends on how much they will be able to do, but I think a prototype would be something that is doable with this kind of grant money. And I think there are lots of VCs, early stage VCs, who have now started funding these kinds of companies. Yeah.
This is actually, today we have very, very wonderful, very constructive talk today. Thanks to all these three panelists, experienced the technological people who have really empowered all of our listeners. Thank you very much. Now we will go to the Q&A session. So there is Mr. Raman Jain. He was asking that what is Hero Electric. So actually, Hero Electric is not definitely Hero Motocorp, as Rajesh sir wrote in the chat. So when this family business of Mr. Munjal family business have been diverted, Vijay Munjal started Hero Electric, and it is a EV company. Anyone would like to add on this answer, Rajiv?
Yes. Actually, when they split, so they had an agreement that Hero, Mr. Naveen Munjal or Mr. Vijay Munjal is his father. So actually, they have a great grandfather which was same person. So like their uncles, sons like that. It's so they had an agreement that they'll not come into electric domain. But at that time, electric domain was nowhere, na. So this normal Hero Motocorp, they signed that agreement. Now they are fighting in the court. You must have heard
Yeah.
it. So it's a different company. Hero Electric versus Hero Motocorp might not be even 0.01%. I think less than that all even. So
Can't use the brand also. They can't use the brand also.
actually, three brothers. One retained Hero Cycles in Ludhiana. The other took Hero Motocorp or a Hero Honda, you can say at that time, and then they started electric. Mr. Vijay Bujjar.
Yeah, Vijay started.
So they have great grandfather which was same man, but now it's like that. So this is how it goes.
Hero Electric, I seen that in between they also acquired some of the early startups in the EVs. They also did that in the earlier. Now, anyway, as you told that there are some court cases happening right now as EV is growing. Everyone wants to get the pie out of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now we have some question raised by Vijay Papanua. So where do we see electric vehicles percentage contribution in India after 3 years? 2 and 3 and 4 wheelers. I would like to give this question to Rajiv sir. You are a person who deal in larger perspective. So where do you see electric vehicles market share contribution in next 3 years? 2, 3 and 4 wheelers sector in where you see?
Two wheelers will be around 50% in next 3 years. Three-wheelers will be almost 70 to 80%. New sale I'm talking about. Four-wheelers will be around 20% by that time. If you see a lot of state governments like Delhi government has already told all the fleet operators that by 2022 December you need to have 30% of your fleet on electric. Be it Ola, be it Uber, be it Zomato, Swiggy, whomsoever has a fleet who's using it in Delhi have to have 30%. So 30% you'll see in another 11 months, you can say.
So it's a big number.
Yeah, that's a big number, and they have already given a target by that by 2025 it should be 50% all electric. So soon a lot of other state governments will definitely follow because of pollution and because of fuel price. Automatically, people are now there is no need for a push which government used to give before. Even government is still giving, but now people because of fuel price people are ready to buy. Any car you drive will not run the less than 10 rupees a kilometer. Any bike you drive will not run less than 3 rupees a kilometer. Our bike runs at 15 paisa a kilometer. So somebody who's earning 25-30,000 rupees working in a factory or in an office, for him spending those 3 rupees a kilometer is a pain. And there is no maintenance. IC engine, you see there is 1,000 of moving parts like Mr. Swami said, piston, rigs, all those stuff. So all those will go, that is for sure. But you don't have any moving part. There is only one battery and a motor and a controller which is electronic, so quite stable if it is of right quality. Motor might have some wear and tear kind of maintenance required. So that is the only moving part you have. So you don't need to put oil every 5,000, 10,000 kilometers. You don't need to put any coolant. There is no coolant at all there. You don't need to put any gear oil or something. Gears are not there. Gearbox is not there, which had a lot of wear and tear problem. So that way, people are now inclining automatically towards EV. It's not that push is being there. Even without the push, they are inclining towards the EV.
Thank you. Next, I will go to Nana. See, what is the power requirement of EV, fast charging and slow charging? What may be the difference of this fast charging and slow? Because we are all hearing about this, fast charging, slow charging, and what are the additional power required for this?
See, when you come to home charging, we run at 240 volts. The line that at home is about 240 volts, and the maximum socket that we use for our geyser or any other load is just 15 amperes. So with 15 ampere power that you have, you can only do slow charging. With 15 ampere power requirement, you can only do force charging. So that's why when the fast charging needs a higher power requirements, it could go. See, the DC charging connector that we are developing is up to 250 volts. That is 250 volts is without cooling. Beyond 250 volts, you need cooling. For buses and all, if you are using the connector itself will have additional cooling. Even for battery swapping, from external it looks like battery swapping, but since battery swapping has to charge the all the chargers, every battery swapping station is like a cooling station. It has a air conditioning system inbuilt. Be it Sun Mobility who is trying to do the battery swapping stations, the back end they have cooling system. Anything needs cooling. So higher for DC charging, you need more current. So generally, you will DC charging is placed in where you have the grid, which is currently our transformers will be maybe supporting 30 kilowatt or 50 kilowatt or 100 kilowatt. But that will be only to the load for your residential, because you are balancing the grid by having additional transformers at every what you call location, right? If I am in Bangalore, in one particular area, you will have hundreds of transformers to boost the load. So to do DC charging, you need additional load or additional power to be taken from the grid. So, and that can, for higher current requirements, we have challenges. I think one of the questions that I also saw was why the cost of DC charger is so high. It's about
Ajay Chitesh, so you can answer that also now.
10 lakhs. See, the main thing in DC charging is just you have inside you have a little bit of capacitors and battery banks, which where you need to dump the charge and store it, and immediately, because in DC fast charging you have within 45 minutes to 1 hour you should have at least 80% charging. That's the time in which people are companies like Delta or Exicom, who are trying to build the DC chargers for Indian market, they are trying to have this what you call additional power requirement which is there from the grid. Because of that, I'm sure there are innovations happening to reduce in the DC charging, which will bring down the cost. It's only a matter of time. I would say, like how people are working towards reducing the motor cost, how people are working to reduce the vehicle cost, battery cost. There are also people who are trying to reduce the power electronic size and the cost. For sure, with invent of silicon carbide and GaN devices which are coming in the power electronic space, this will bring down the cost. Initially, the cost will be high for sure because of the adoption. You will have less people who are adopting it, but eventually when more people adopting it, and then once you see more volume, these device costs will come down. Once the device costs of the power electronics come down, automatically your product cost will also come down. See, I'm sure the semiconductor, see, this all brings down to the semiconductor industry in India, which is a very good step by Tata. Tata has what you call will invest in semiconductor manufacturing in India. Once that happens, 3 years down the line, we will see certain cost reductions happening in the semiconductor space, which will bring down the overall power electronics cost.
Gnana, thanks for this. One more, I would like to add one more question along with this. You told that we need to have extra power requirement is there when we are going to set up all these things. So what is the source of energy? Is it going to be renewable?
No, it will be renewable energy. See, that is where it is more efficient. See, here you got a very good point. In Japan already the electric vehicle charging is happening through your solar panels. So they are using solar panels to charge the battery, and it is like vehicle to grid, vehicle to home, home to grid, grid to home, and then home to vehicle. So all this is will happen, and I'm sure Indian companies, Indian startup ecosystem is already working on bringing using what you call renewable energies to power your electric vehicles. This would also increase. See, already today, solar industry has penetrated India very well. It's only that we need to have additional capacity installed, which will you don't, because I know a place in outside of near border of Karnataka called Hosur, where they're trying to build a community where the entire community will be off the grid. Entire community will be off the grid. They will be not connected to the grid at all. Complete power will be happening to them in solar or renewable energy. And they'll also be given electric vehicles. When you buy a home there, you're also getting an electric vehicle, which you can use to charge from the renewable energy sources. So it is then these are the kind of technologies I'm sure will come in, will make India or EV more sustainable.
And moreover, at night, the grids are underutilized.
Correct.
If you see, India, there is no differential tariff. A lot of countries in the world have differential tariff, where a unit of power in day might cost $0.50, but at night it costs $0.25. So at night, the grids are underutilized, and mostly EV charging, as per the survey done, 90% is done at the night. Only few people do it in the daytime. So that will not be a problem because all the grids are underutilized at night. So anyway, they can use it and charge it. So a lot of scope is there in case of charging in that respect.
Even there for startups, there is a big area of opportunity is to setting up these charging infra. Even in the residential societies, maybe at one point of time, every house or every flat, the parking is something what you get mandatory. Now that this also will come as a package along with maybe the renewable energy and all those things. So
Not,
things,
not
yeah,
only
please.
hardware but software like app. If you want to find a charging station, public charging station, so app for that, you can book that charging station for 2 hours, 1 hour, and even the payment goes directly from the app. So a lot of softwares will also come in. It's like a lot of integrators will be there, like in case of taxi domain there are. So it has a lot of scope in a lot of domains. Not only hardware, that you build hardware, you connect it to electricity. That is one aspect of it. Then serviceability and usability, that also comes into it. It should be also easily available.
There are many companies right now, the startups which are now coming and playing in the service also. Like one of my friend, Sujoy from Delhi, is set up the Sea Oxygen, and he is now, expanding with their franchises. Madan from Volta, yeah, there are many companies working in the solar panels. We can definitely connect with me offline. I can send you the details of these companies who are manufacturing solar panels at your area. India is growing, and that also very again dependent upon imports. We import a lot of solar panels and the raw materials, but things are changing. So
Yeah, solar panel is still at least manufacturing is happening, but the raw material is still imported because of the cost reasons only. I'm sure there will be. We will also get into that space. Maybe Tata could be one of the companies who are trying to do completely in India. At least I'm not sure on that answer. So
and many companies are working right now on rooftop solar. There are a lot of opportunities. Now, actually, we are 10 minutes ahead. This was really wonderful discussion. All these three panelists, starting with Rajiv ji, Nana, and Rohit, they brought in a lot of insights, and we have very great participants today who stayed along with us all these 1 hour plus without leaving us and hearing out. So I should thank my panelists to making this session so rich. We will continue talking about EV and its technology in the coming days. Mass Foundation almost every week Saturdays comes out with a webinar talking about the electric vehicle initiatives, green mobility opportunities, technologies available in the country. Next week, we are going to have the professor from IIT Guwahati. Dr. Praveen Kumar is very famous. He works in a lot of technologies. Please come back and join us next Saturday. Thank you very much, Rohit, Rajiv, and Nana for being part of the panel discussion today. Over to you, Denuka.
Thank you so much, sir. And also, I'm sorry, my PC is hanged.
no problem. You can.
Yeah, I was in the beginning of today's program. I was kind of completely troubled because you see there was no internet, and thanks to it
Yes,
worked.
Yes. Yes, sir. So in the end, I would like to thank all the honorable speakers and moderator for this insightful and beautiful and very detailed session about EV ecosystem. And I would also like to thank our audience to being this enthusiast and for listening this session so patiently. And I'm also grateful for the Mass Foundation for organizing this informative session. And also I'm grateful to the machine maker for providing this platform for us. It was very nice meeting you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.